Welcome to Matter of Action. I'm Wayne Morrow, and today we're going to discuss leadership. In the bulletin this month, I thought the focus is important going forward is on leadership, the year of leadership. I quoted from Mr. Welch, the John Birch Society will function almost entirely through small local chapters, usually from 10 to 20 dedicated patriots. You know, the word leadership or leadership role has been used a lot. And the question is, what is it? How does it apply to you? So let's look through some of the main responsibilities of membership, which leads to leadership. And what are those? They would, first of all, increase knowledge, basically improve oneself. Well, how do you do that? There's lots of ways you can do that. We have lots of literature available. If you go to the jbs.org website, we have lots of DVDs. Books galore, from the $5,000 Leap to Federalist Papers to the Law. The Life of John Birch. I challenge you to reread that book. How about the Blue Book? That's really important. Why do we even exist? None dare call it education, the world federalism. We can go on and on. I think that's really important to educate yourself, because if you're not educated, then how can you educate others? You know, we have booklets and, of course, our magazines, The New American. So as I go through the U.S., I find people lacking information, not because they don't have it, is because they have not taken the opportunity, the responsibility to increase knowledge on their own. So that's number one. Increase your knowledge. You can listen to DVDs, videos, speeches. There's many ways to increase your knowledge. Next thing is, when you do that and you know the problem, then the next logical step is to recruit others. So how do you do that? There's lots of ways you can recruit others. I listen to people tell me, well, I don't know anybody. Well, that's not true. You mean you don't know a soul in your neighborhood? Well, of course they do. And one of the goals of a good chapter leader or chapter is to list through people that you may know. And that's really important, because the only way we win this is to influence others. As Mr. Welch said, it's just through an organization of small local chapters of dedicated patriots. Well, they don't grow out of the ground like petunias. You have to recruit them. And they do exist, because people really want to know. I hear this all the time. Hey, something's radically wrong. What's going on? And what a great opening to explain that. So recruiting others is really important. And then the monthly agenda. You know, the bulletin's written in 10 pieces, but the agenda is such as recruiting is number one, stopping the New World Order, and out it goes. The JBS has a booklet called the JBS Agenda, and in it goes into more detail on recruiting, stop the New World Order, the Constitution, support your local police, the New American, the jbs.org, your education, and then pending legislation. You know, it changes, the pending legislation does, but the key thing is carry out the agenda. Mr. Welch, when he formed the Birch Society, said that he saw many organizations in the United States had good causes, but they were not uniform in their approach. They didn't have really an agenda to carry out. So that's why the bulletin exists, and that's why we have an agenda. So you want to increase your knowledge, you want to share that knowledge with someone else, and then you want to carry out the agenda and carry out the monthly bulletin. That's the action part. We'll talk a little bit more about that. So as you're doing, preparing for meetings, it's preparation and participation. So you're having a chapter meeting. So what do you do now? You have a chapter meeting. You have to read the monthly bulletin, and you have to then be prepared to look at current educational tools. That's really important, as we mentioned. List your prospects. As I mentioned early on, you have a list of people you know. Who do you do business with, for example? Who are some of the key opinion leaders in your community? Family and friends, people you go to church with. The list is a lot longer than you think. So when you hear people, I don't know anybody, that's just an excuse. They're lazy. They don't want to share anything. And then contact elected officials. Elected officials are contacted. You know, they have these times off when they're off session. And they're approachable. I always tell people, remember, elected officials work for you. You don't work for them. And the ones I had a chance to meet, I go not alone with 2 or 3 people, and I prepare a presentation on a particular subject. For example, against the CONCON or against get us out of the UN. And contacting our elected officials is important because most of the time they have no idea what the real agenda is. So that's where we come in. And you could do this a couple ways: by email, by phone, by Twitter, or written documentation or letters. So a congressman tells me the way to contact elected officials that really works well are phone calls and Twitter. They read Twitter even during session. And so this be where phone calls really work, the local office or the national office. So now we get into action-oriented chapter meetings. What does that mean? Well, first of all, it requires time and energy and devotion. You need to encourage and motivate each other. If you listen to the local news, you get disenfranchised, you get discouraged. You don't want to do that. You want to encourage one another. You want to motivate one another. And you want to set an example. And one of the good ways is filling out a chapter report. Now, why is that necessary? Is as a good leader, either personally or as a chapter leader, is that chapter reports are important because it tells not only your local chapter we're doing these events and for next month, but also then informs the corporation or the headquarters here that the information we set in place is being used. Or maybe we have to change our direction or strategy. But having a chapter report's important because we hear back from you all out in the country. And the interesting thing is I always like to share is success stories. Hey, what's working and what's not working? We have weekly meetings with our field coordinator staff, and we share success stories, and we share success stories about you. Hey, what's working? What's not working out in the world? And it's really encouraging to hear some really good things happening. Matter of fact, there's a lot of good things happening. One of the ways you can share success stories, one of good success stories, are called information and action meetings. You can share monthly videos, which are, we have lots of those that I mentioned on different topics. The one in particular, USMCA or the CONCON or the Second Amendment, and those are important. And we encourage chapter members to bring at least one friend for every meeting. So we have in New Jersey, which is a good example, believe it or not, they have INA meetings all the time. And they grow their chapters and membership through this vehicle called Information and Action Meetings often. So invite one friend. So if you have a chapter of 10, now you have 20 people at the meeting. Reaffirm everybody they're not alone. They're not. As I travel the U.S., believe me, you're not alone. There are many people who think the same way that you do, but they don't know you exist, and that's why it's important to list prospects. So as you set the pace to motivate and development, you want to inspire people, you want to share the vision, you want to lead the change. You can do that as a strong leader. And the thing is that you need to be educated to make that happen. And once you have your arm with the truth, it's nothing to be afraid of. Responsible leaders is needed to achieve your goals. Responsibility is important. And I share ways to be responsible. Educate yourself. You need to recruit others. And you need to carry out the monthly agenda. But the key thing is to educate yourself onto the current information available. There's nothing to be afraid of. Most people that I run across do not even know that we're a republic. They think we're a democracy. Yep, sounds crazy, but it's very true. So these people are dying for education, literally. And as Mr. Welch says, there is no substitute for victory. This is important. 2020 is the year of leadership. We'll talk more about that on leadership roles and responsibilities going forward, but it's all upon you. You have to be the leader. You have to take hold and take charge because your life depends on it. Until next time, you can contact the jbs.org for more information, our website, or 1-800-JBS-USA1. So go out and lead. God bless.